We're holding in Perek Yud, and we will continue in this very same topic we spoke about last week. Oz Yedaber Yehoshua beyoim teis Hashem esoymeri lifnei bnei Yisrael, vayomer le'enei Yisrael, Shemesh begiv'oin doim, veyoreach be'emek ha'ayoloin, vayidoim Hashemesh vayidoch, Omad. The Shemesh and the Yereach both stood. Ad yikoim goy avodov alo yiksuv al Sefer Yehoshua. Vayamoid Hashemesh bachatzi hashomayim v'lo yotz lovoi keyoim tomim v'lo hoyo kayoim ahu lefonov ve'acharov lishmoya Hashem bekol ish k'Hashem nilcham b'Yisrael. Psukim are telling us clearly and precisely that Yeshua made a nace that Shemesh begivoin doim, the Shemesh stood in givoin doim, veyoreach be'emek hayoloin, this moon did not disturb the sun as we saw last week, ve'lo yotz lovoi keyoim tomim. Yotz lovoi keyoim tomim, there's a Gemara in Avodah Zarah. Gemara in Avodah Zarah is discussing the duration of the nace of Shemesh begivoin doim. So I'd like to read in short the Gemara. Zog the Gemara, Omar Rabbi Shua ben Levi. How long did it take for the Shemesh, Mahalach HaShemesh, on this Friday? We know it was a Friday, Gimel Tammuz. How long did it take for the Shemesh to shine that day before it was Shkia Sacham? Zog the Gemara, Omar Rabbi Shua ben Levi, 24 Shemay. There was 24 hours till the Shkia. What's the Cheshbon? Ozil Shis. The sun started shining Friday morning from the Zriche, 6 hours. Vekom Shis. After 6 hours, it stopped there for 6 hours. In other words, if the Zriche was 6 a.m., at 12, this clock stopped, froze for 6 hours. And Ozil Shis, and then the sun went again 6 hours. Theoretically, by now, 6 p.m., it should have been the Shkia. Vekom Shis. Again, the sun stopped its Mahalach for 6 hours. In other words, the day, instead of being a 12-hour day, starting 6 a.m., finishing at 6 p.m., the day lasted 24 hours. 6 hours of a regular Mahalach HaChamo, 6 hours stopping, another 6 hours theoretical Tishkiyah, and then again 6 hours of being frozen, resulting in the day being a 24-hour day. That day did not last 24 hours, but 36 hours. Why? Ozil Shis v'kam treisa. He learns the pasuk. V'leikom ki yom tomi means that regular yom tomi means 12 hours. So the leikom, the stopping procedure, was for 12 hours. Is Ozil Shis and kom treisa. It went 6 hours and then 12 hours it froze. Ozil Shis and then v'kom treisa again. So Mimele, resulting in the day had additional 24 hours apart, above and beyond the regular daily movement of the sun. So the day was 36 hours. That's the second mandoma. There were 48 hours in that day. Ozil Shis, the sun went 6 hours. Vekom Treisa, and then like the previous mandoma Kabbalah, it says it's still Treisa. Ozil Shis, but again, when it came before Shkia Sachamo, Vekom 24 v'lo yotz ki yom tomim doesn't mean 12 hours, it means additional 24 hours, which means that the total amount of the day was 12 and 24, which is 36, plus the regular 12 hours, the movement was totally 48-hour day. It's an extended day. Normal day should have been 12 hours. This day was either 24 hours, 36 hours, or 48 hours. But we had additional daylight time in which, during that time, the Milchama took place and Yeshua bin Nun had that nes. It's very interesting. The Rambam in Sefer Moira Nevuchim, you have it in front of you in reference number 1. In Chelik Beis, in Perek Lamed Hey, says the Rambam, and let me quote, Kvar be'alti l'bnei Odom kulom, ha'arbo hevdelim, asher mehem nivdalo, bohem nevuas Moshe Rabbeinu, nevuas Shar Nevim. V'chen ha'inyon etzli oid beniflo isov, v'niflo zulosei. Ki oisoisov. Ein makas nifloes mishar ha'nevim, ve'em evdol moifoisav al-klam yimevte kol novi al-klal, ki kol ha'nifloes asher asom ha'nevim, or nasu lehem yigidu b'hem yechidim m'bnei Odom, ki oises Eliyahu ve'Elisha, v'aletire melech Yisrael tomea mehem, ve'yishal es geichazi sheyagidim loi kemo she'omar sapro no lies kol ha'gdolos asher oso Elisha, v'ayu mesaper, v'yomer geichazi Adoni HaMelech zois ha'isha v'zeh bno asher hechyo Elisha. In other words, other Nevi'im, like he takes the nes of Eliyahu Hanovi Elisha, he was Mechaye. Let's say the nes of Elisha was Mechaye. The kid, the child, the sick child that died, Elisha was Mechaye. And then the Melech wants to ask Gehazi, who was the chief of staff by Elisha, what is it? He shows him, here's the woman and here's the child. Look, he's alive. V'chen kol oises kol novi zulas Moshe Rabbeinu. ולזה הגיד התורה אולוב גם כן של יקום נובי לאילום, שיעשה אויסוס בפרהסיו, לעיני הנאויס לוי והחולק אולוב, כמו שעושה מוישה. והוא המורה ולקום נובי אויד, כמו של חלויסוס והמויפסים לעיני כל ישראל, שהוא קושה. הנה שני העניונים יחדוב, של יקום מי שיוסי כהשגוסוי, ולא מי שיעשה כמעשוב. ואחר כך ביאר, שהאיסס, הם היו לפעול לכל עבודה ולכל הארצה חולקים עולוב, והיו גם בפני כל ישראל הנמשוך מאחור, לעיני כל ישראל. ודובר זה לא נמצא לנובי לפניו, וכבר קודמו אגדוסה הצדקת שלא יהיה זה לזולוסה. The Rambam seems to be saying that there's a fundamental chiluk between the Isis and Moifsim of Moshe Rabbeinu and Sh'ar Nevi'im. Moshe Rabbeinu made an ace. It's called in the Loshen Harishonim Hakadmoinim Shidud Ma'arochos Hateva. He was actually had the ability of totally mishaded the nature movements, and v'chein that was Moshe, and it was not only Shidud Ma'arochos Hateva, but the nace was for both. For the Cholkin Olov and for the Noisloi, for those, the followers, and for the one who were fighting with him. The Moifis and the Ois, the Moshe Rabbeinu, he makes in front of the Mitzrim, when he makes the Makas Choshech, it's a Choshech for the Mitzrim and the Kobne Yisrael Yaor. Everybody sees the fundamental nays that Moshe Rabbeinu is able to be Mishared Maroches Ateva. Sh'ar Nevi'im, says the Rambam, there was a local miracle which happened to be done as a teisefes on nature. In other words, somebody died in Otchias Amesim. So comes Elisha, and Novi is Machye. So what does he do? He bypasses the Teva and is Mechayim Amesim. But Moshe Rabbeinu was able to totally mishaded Ma'aroches HaTeva. Zog der Rambam at the end. Veloyat echo. This is the point I would like to bring out. Veloyat echo shouldn't be mistaken. Mashebo me'amidas oira Shemesh leYeshua ashoyesahem. You see, what are you telling me? The Moshe Rabbeinu is one and only lekom keMoshe. Yeshua bin Nun. The nace of Shemesh begiven doim is also such a nace that it says, "Zochte veyoyma le'eni Yisrael ki lo yoyma kol Yisrael ki bo beMoshe." וכן אליהו בעקל מבפני אנושים מועטים. ואומנם אמרתי השור אסרהם מפני שייר לי באומר כיום תומים, שהוא כיום הגודל שיהיה כתומים שולם, כאילו אומר שהיום הוא אצלם בגיוון כגודל שבימי הקיץ ששום. So the truth of the matter is that the Rambam, there's different people learn different pshat in the Rambam. How does the Rambam learn pshat in the nace when Shemesh begiven to him? The Barbanel is a Pirish. You have a Moyer Nevuchim, one of the Meforshim of Barbanel, which was a Kadmoin. He wrote a Pirish on Sefer Moyer Nevuchim, and he writes, let me quote, you have it right there by you in reference number 2. So the Barbanel, V'hoyo masig sofe godl mi'in amidas Shemesh leYeshua, shu neis yoyse godl mula mikol hanifloes shel Moshe. Kefi malas al Yeshua gram ashmeimi, v'im hoyo amoivsim mafsigim atzmim lenevu yischayv she'em malas Yeshua gdoyle mi'mailas, Moshe Rabbeinu kefi mailas moiftam. The Shiurei Yeshua made a bigger nace. He was able to go to the gomim ashmimim, to the himelish gromim, to the sun, and freeze the sun. The mahalach of the sun, the Shiurei is bigger than Moshe. Mipnei ze roa harav lehatir ze asofek. Listen to this. The nace was not really that the sun froze and there was a beetle tnua sagalgo. Ki im shenischade sham oir maspik l'shiyasu milchamtom balaylo keilu oyo beyoim boyer. Comes in and says, shot in the Rambam. Rambam means to say, according to Barbanel, that not the pshat is that Yeshua wasn't mishaded ma'abochis ateva. Pshat is that although it was really night, it really was after sunset, but in the battlefield, in that particular place, they had sunshine, they had light, ke'ilu hoyo beyoim boya. Vezeu she'oma me'amidas oir HaShemesh leYeshua, ki ine hoyo aneis, shechidesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu oir mechudesh maspik aleim. והויה הנס דוימה לנס החוישך שנעשה במצרים שהיו חוישך למצרים ולכל נסו לאוי במויש וייסום לא שיהיה הנס בגרם הגלגל בתנועוסי כי אם באויר נברו מחודשם ולכן לא הויה הנס כלל בכל אוילם כי מויש הויה רוי שיהיה בביטל תנועס הגלגל אבל הויה הנס שם בגיוון. He says the truth of the matter is if you go 10 miles away from Givoin, if you're in Yerushalayim, so when you were there, it was regular sun. The sun shined Friday for 12 hours, and then it became Shkesachamo. In that particular place, Kodesh Baruch Hu made a projector Ki'ilu Oir HaChamo. It was Oir Yoyim Balaylo. Laila Kiyoyim Yoyer. But not he was Mishaded Ma'arochas Ateva Kitnuas Agalgal stopped. No, he didn't. And therefore, it's exactly like Makas Chayshich. What was Makas Chayshich? Not that HaKadosh Baruch Hu Makas Chayshich, unlike the medrash we brought last week. Not like Makas Chayshich was that there was Pasha the Shemesh or Shekeh, wasn't in sunshine for the next 7 days during the Makas Chayshich. Now, in that particular place of Mitzrayim, there was dark, and you know why? Because there was a regular Mahalach of Tnuas HaChameh. All those days, 12 hours day, 12 hours night. Azay Zogda Barbanel, which is similar to the Ralbag that we brought last week. There was no Shidud Ma'arochis Ateva, was a particular projector which shined sunshine during the time which was really in all other areas but Givain in the middle of the night. I mean, with all due courtesy, Barbanel learned Pshat in the Rambam. That's what other people other Meforshim learn the Rambam differently. But the Sugyas HaGemorah in Avodah Zarah that we brought before, that the Gemorah 3 Mandamim, Gemorah is talking about how long did the sun shift. The sun Ozil ve'otzar. And the question is, it was that Tzir HaShoish, not wasn't Ischachus from an Oir Mechudesh, Psanaya projector, like the Barbanel says. But that's how he learns. So we have the Barbanel, the Ralbag, and the Barbanel wants to learn Pshat that way in the Rambam Sefer HaMoireh, that it seems that it wasn't really a Shidud Marochas Teva, but just a projected light during that particular time. And when we have the Sugyas Pashta, Sugyas Agmoin of the Zohar Dafrofei, the 3 Mandahoim that said the sun stopped, like the Pasha the Pshat, like the Radak learns, like all the other Meforshim, like Rashi learns, that there was Shidud Marochas Teva, I lokom kemoishe tzakashe. Yeshua was, you see the Pesukim says by Yeshua itself, Yeshua was übergestiegen der Rebbe shel lishmoya Hashem bekoil ish HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You can learn lishmoya Hashem bekoil ish that he projected sunlight in the middle of the night. But Pashta is the way the Sugyas Agmoin of Avodah Zarah, there was a Shidud Marochas Ateva in additional 12 hours, 24 hours, 36 hours during the day of Milchemes Givon. The Mabit has a sefer called Beis Elikim. In Shara Tefillah, you have it here in reference number 3, he writes, I would like to read a couple words from the Mabit. וכבר יראה שיפול סופק בגדר זה. במה שמצינו בישוע אשר הפליג לדבר השם, אחרי דיתה המויר לפני בני ישראל ועשוי סנס גודל בהשליך על האויבים עוונים גדולס. וכנראה מן הכסובים שכבר ניצחו המלחמה. כן, למה הוא צריך למלחמה בגיבים ויורח בעמק איילון והוא הגדר מה שאמרנו דובר צריך. We know Kadosh Baruch Hu does not make any nisim shalei l'tzerich. If you read the Pesukim Poshet, unsere Perek, it seems like Yeshua had a milchama, and they ran after the Avnei Haborod, which were frozen, hibernated for so many years from Makas Borod Mitzrayim till now, came back down and killed, and it says in the Pesukim, they killed more people than the regular milchama did. So why is HaKadosh Baruch Hu right now adding a new miracle which is totally unneeded and makes a nace of Shemesh begivon doim? אפשר לומר שהוא צריך אישור לעשות הנס הגדול הזה לקדש השם, כדי שידעו כל העולם כי אויס הנס של השלוחס העוונים היו מאיתו יסבורך, ושהיו יכולס ביודו לעשות נס גדול ממנו, כי אויס הנס היו בלילה, כי דקסיבס, פוסק מפורש למלחמה was at night, ויובא עליהם ישוע פתאום כל הלילה, ויהומם השם לפני ישראל, ויהי בנוסם השם ישלח עוונים גדולס, וימוסו רב משמסו ואבני הבורד מאשר יהרגו בני ישראל בחורף. Or is it Daber Yeshua? What does it mean? Ki achar shero sibas. Yeshua saw. Ki achar shero Yeshua sherabim mesu ba'avnei habord kasher horgu bnei Yisrael b'chorev. Benuso yoda ki choshvu v'tolu. He says the people around the Umas Ha'ilom are going to think shtolu ki lesibas hoy yishnas nusum b'layla ba'oisam moirot shel beis chayrin. The menuso, the running away, the escaping from Yeshua and his army was at night. The Medrash Rabbah says the Shemesh is the king of the world. So they thought, Eibishter, their God. Yes, koyach. You know why? Because they come middle of the night, they could smuggle, he could go ahead and throw stones. But if this would have been a midday war, never ever under the sun, they were able to do such miracles. דיבר ישוע ביונטייסה אמר ואומר להם לישראל שמש בגיבן דוים כי זה הנסר לעיני ישראל שראו אויסה כי נסה השלוחס העוון מלואי עליהם שלא יראו אבין השלוחסם. This is talking to Israel. Klal Yisrael did not see the נסה השלוחס העוון. אלא שמייסו המוירים מצידם, they thought it was a regular war. אבל זה הנס של עמידס השמש אוי לעיניהם שראו השמש בעיניהם אוי מתקיים תמיד. ועניין העמודס השמש אלוהי עשלם כי השם יסבורך מוישל בכל ברוב וניסל הם תוקף לעמוד על משמרתם ולהסייצם על מישהו בעלוכם ויוכל לשנס את תפקידם ולבט לעצם עבידוסם ואפילו לשמש הוא המוישל הגודל שבועילום לעיני הברואים לזה אומר שמש בגיבן דוים ויורח בעמק האלוהים שהתמיד העמודס השמש עד אשר ישלימו לינקה כדי שיסקיים יסקדש השם וידעו הגויים the goyim should know כי ממשלס השם ומידס דינוי מסוכו לאויבב בין ביום בין בלילה ולכך לא יזוז השמש ממעמודוי עד אשר נוקחו נקמוסו מהם בשלימוס ואומר ולאויו קיימו לפונב לאחרוב שיעשה נס שלו לצורך אחר שובה מהמלחמה בניצוחן שישמו עשם בכל איש לעשס נס גודל לא ירח אלא לסיבס שיניקה בפוסקה השם נלחם בישראל. Saying like this, ולאויו קיים הזה, the pasuk is telling me a totally different, not לאויו קיים הזה. There was never a story of Kadosh Baruch Hu shemishaded ma'rochas teva because theoretically the milchama was over. Kadosh Baruch Hu only did that because it was lazus fasayim. They held that Kadosh Baruch Hu was liois. He was lazy. He's not able. Kitzur lishma yisborach, as the Mabit says. Therefore, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, you know what? You think that I can only take care of you at night. You going to think HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not Moishel because the sun controls the world. Here I'll show you that Yeshua could control and tell the sun that Shemesh begivon doim v'yorech be'emek ha'Elohim. So the Sibas Hanes was le'lo yehechach She'eniker u'mefursum k'Hashem nilchom leYisrael. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who is conducting the war for Klal Yisrael. Okay, so we have a nace of Shemesh begiven doing v'yorech be'emek hayoloin. The question is, was it shidud ma'arochas alteva like the Suyas Agmoin of Zohar, or alternately it was just projecting light during the time? As the Rambam, the Babanel wants to learn the Rambam, they're all bag, was a nace mekoimi all over the place. The sun was really set. Here the sun stood up, and Kiyoim Tomim means that only there was projected light as if it was daylight time, daylight light. And the light was Ki'ilu Be'emtza Hayoim. Here Mashiach. And then we have the Mabit, Beis Elokim was telling us that Tzorech HaNeis was to be Magdil, to be Mefarsem, should be Niker, that Hashem is Nilcha B'Yisrael. I'd like to talk today about a topic which is very fascinating. What is the halachic, the halachadike ramifications of Shemesh Begivayinde? You know, it's a Yadu Mefursum that Shmir Shabbos, Shmir Moyadei Hashono, and a lot of the mitzvahs, ha'amuros b'Torah, are totally in the Zman Yoim B'Laylo. Some of them before Alis HaShachar, some of them before, some of them it's according, the mitzvah commences during Alois, some of them the mitzvah commences in Neitz HaChamo, some of them expire or finish during Shkes HaChamo, and some of them expire and finish in the time of Tzeis HaKochavim. You know, if you go to those places next to the North Pole, Norway, Sweden, Finland, even Canada, the north part, over there, the sun, I don't know if you know, but the sun shines in March 22nd, the Zriche, and you don't have Shkes HaCham until September 1st. You have a bunch of months that you have daylight, or vice versa, it's only dark and not light, or some of the year there's only an hour of night, or 2 hours of night, and it doesn't really get dark. The major shaila shvuas in the poskim, when does the day finish and when does the new day start? And therefore, they also want to know, how do you count Sheishis Yemei Maaseh and Shabbos afterwards? How do you mechashev the day and night klape krishme klape tefillah? Could you light Hanukkah candles in a place during the day? The Gemara says Shraga b'tiyelo may mehanye. Could you make a bris milah in those months that the sun doesn't shine mid in the night? What do we do? Legabe mitzvahs tzitzis, legabe mitzvahs tefillin, legabe mitzvahs krishme, legabe mitzvahs tefillah. What do we do? So the first one, really, according to the Olam thinks that the first one is the Tiferes Yisrael, the Pirush HaMishnah. It's at the end of the first parak of Berochis. He has the Pirush Yochanan and Boyaz. So in Boyaz, if you look at the end of the first parak of Berochis, he says as follows. He says that L'chura, theoretically, the Seichel Yosha says that a person should start counting his calendar according to the days of wherever he's coming from. And then he writes himself, and I'm quoting, Yusham Beis Anoshim, Echad me'Amerika, ve'Echad me'Europa. Two people come into the North Pole. One is coming from America, one from Europe. Kol Echad Yishmer Shabbosei L'fi Hamokim Sheyatza Misham. The guy started in America was Tuesday, so he's counting Shabbos. His calendar goes according, it's daytimes, 7, 30, 60, 90 days daytime. So he's going to start Shabbos according to, so he says, the MSC is that the halacha is a hiluch b'midbar. If you look in Orachaim, Shimem Dalet, it says a hiluch b'midbar v'eni yodea matu Shabbos. Guy goes in the midbar, he doesn't know, he lost the calendar, he went to sleep, he lost the calendar, he's in the desert. So it's like more in Shabbos, and the Mechaber brings down, when he wakes up, it starts counting 7 days. It's a din that he's mechuyev, is only din derabbanim. The Brura comes in, it says the reason why he does that, I mean, the when two guys, one went to sleep and woke up, now he starts counting 7 days, the other guy is sleeping for another 2 days, his Shabbos is going to be on the other guy's Monday. Zog the Mishnah Brura, Afanort, over there in Shimem Daled, so the Mishnah Brura, that the whole halacha is takonas chachomim, shelo tishtakach teres Shabbos, only in order to establish, to constitute the teres Shabbos, so you do that, okay? The Tiferes Yisrael Vakelsach, he doesn't really know, he goes back and forth, And then, there's a Mingetzer Rebbe has a whole kuntras about it, Minchas Elazar, and he writes, and I quote, "Leplia nizgova." He has a plia nizgova pele otzum shel nizbar b'shumokim b'shas v'divrei chazav v'lepois kibushenim v'achronim ma'u dinim shelo yisem mekomis ne'inkrishma v'tfilo b'fratli in Shabbos im ki kol raz le'onis lo v'yodu b'halichos v'sivu v'shemesh. Chazal knew in sivu v'shemesh, they knew everything was happening. Nothing was Nister, and his Pella Otzum and the Yehuska, we don't find any Gemorahs, any Mishnayos, any Midrashim. What happens in those places where the sun doesn't go down for 4 months straight? The Shaila is really, what's the Halachic Shaila? The Shaila is, what's really the gather of the Bria that the is Machlifes Azmanim, there's a Zman of Yoim and Zman of Laila. Is it necessarily bound and tied to the Oyer v'Choshech? The Oyer is Hagdore, that's the day, and the Choshech is Laila, or it's totally in a cycle, a 24-hour cycle, and every 24 hours there is a Yemama. Every 24 hours there is a Yemama, and part of it, half of it is a Yoim, half of it is a Laila. If you look at Parshas Bereshis, it says, there was a Choshech and an Oyer prior to the Moyers. The Shemesh was only Niver on Yom Revi, the Shemesh and the Erech. So if you look at the Gemara in Chagig and Daf Yud Beis, I'd like to read the Gemara. There's 10 things which are Niver on the first day. What is the Yom Rishon? Ve'el Shamayim v'Oretz, Toyu v'Voyu, Oyer v'Choshech, Ruach v'Mayim, Midas Yoim u'Midas Lail. Apart from Oyer v'Choshech, dark and light, Midas Yoim, Midas Lucht Rashi in Chagig and Daf Yud Beis. Midas Yoim, Midas Lail, Ainu Chavdaled Shoyz Ben Shneim. The fact that there's a cycle, there's a marechet of 24 hours between day and night, that was Nivra b'Yom HaRishon. This is all being Nivra 3 days prior to the Shemesh and the Yereach, which is L'Mshelas Hayom, M'Shelas Balayla. So it comes out like this. In Yom HaRishon, there are two separate brias. So there's a bria of Oyer Choshech, and there's a bria of Yom V'Layla, and not necessarily there's any connection between the two of them. So the gather of Oyer Choshech is totally untied and unrelated to the Zman Midas Yom Midas Laila. The Hagdor of Midas Yom Midas Laila is only Knua Sagalgo. We know that Kadur Oretz, Drezach Iber, one turn every 20, not exactly 24, it's maybe 23 and 56 minutes and 4 seconds, on or about, I'm not going to get in right now to the astronomical cheshbaitis, but on or about 24 hours where the Tnua Sagalgo is completing a full hekif, and that's the Yoim Midas Laila every 24 hours. If you look at Rabbeinu Bechaye, right in the beginning of Bereshis, he says, and I'm reading, take a look at Rabbeinu Bechaye, you have it here on your notes in reference number 8. He says like this, he says, Be'emes, the first 3 days of Bria So'ilim is only Erev Vayker, before the Blia Samoyers. He writes like this, B'shleisha Yomim Eile Iski Erev Vayker, V'lo Yehoyu Shom Me'oyres Shi Mechayvim Erev V'Aboyker, Ki Shkia So'oyro Erev, V'zrichos Re'aboker. Dem Iski B'shleishtam Erev Vayker, V'lo Yiklape Oyer, Klape Agalgol, Shu Chayzer Misgalgel, Ki Kol Chelek Michel Kerakig, Shu Eilu Boyker, Shekeu Erev. Ach Me'yoyim Revi, V'oilach, Shenivra Me'oyres, Iskir Erev, V'Vayker Klape Oyer. Weiss, if you look well in Rabbeinu Bechaye, that in the Bria of the Me'oyres, there was a change in the Yachas of the Zman of Boiker Be'erev. Till the 4th day, the Boiker was half of the day, and the Laila was half of the Yemama, of the 24-hour period. All the time, there was 12 hours day, 12 hours night. After Nivra Me'oyres, there is a shino in the Yachas. We know that it's pending the Oynes Hashana. We have a longer day in the summer and a shorter night, and a longer night in the winter and a shorter day. So Mimele, Moshel B'Shois HaChorev, the Shkia is Mukdam, so the Laila will be longer, and the same thing vice versa in the summer. That was the Schadish of the Me'oyres. Prior to that, there was a Midas Yom Laila, 24-hour period, where the Knua Sagalgo completes itself. of which 12 hours is called Yom, 12 hours is called Laila. According to this Rabbeinu B'chaya, come along, some of the poskim and say that in the place there's no Memshelas HaMe'oros. Why? Because we're standing either the South Pole is not so much Negeh because it is not case a issue. But the North Pole, there are many countries, many states who are residing on or about the North Pole, some more further north, some a little bit south of the North Pole. So some of the poskim say that in the place there is no Memshelas HaMe'oros, so you don't have a Yom V'Laylo, you don't have a Shemesh V'Yoreach B'Yom U'Balaylo. So we come back to the initial Chaluke of Midas Yom U'Midas Laylo. It's nothing to do that it's not going to be a longer day and a shorter day. And if the Shkia B'Choyrev, the Layla, is longer than the day, there would be Chalokim Shavim. When you're there's a 12-hour day, you start counting 12-hour day. And like the first Kviyus of Brias Olam, you look at the clock from 12 a.m. to 12 p.m., whatever the time you stop it. From 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. is Lailo. From 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. is Yom. That is the Yemama of 24 hours, Midas Yom Umidas Lailo. So the Seder HaMitzvahs in the first 12 hours, you mispal the tefillas, you koyre krishma, you make a bris milah, you do all the things which are noig by Yom. And in the second 12 hours, although it's the same daylight, the same sun shining outside, the second 12 hours is Midas Laila and all the dinim of Laila and Noyeg. And this is how you count 6 times 24 hours, and afterwards you have Shabbos. The Yavitz has a sefer called Moevek Tzia. Moevek Tzia says, and I'm reading, you can take a look in reference number 9, Be'oisam shenoisim tachas hakoitev, שיש לימנו שם 7 יום משובש שחופדל שובש ומחשב מיום שהגיע לשם מוינה היום בשורס ומקדש שביעי כדרך שנזכר בהולך במדבר. This is clear. A guy comes from the minute you land in the North Pole, you start counting 7 days. From that moment that you come in, right now you are ben hakoitev atzvaini. You count 7 days of 24 hours, 6 days, and the 7th day is Shabbos. This is how he learns. The Chidah says, if you know what day you came, I arrived. I know I left my airplane 10 hours before. I know I left Tuesday night. So when I came now here, I can't start counting that this is Motzei Shabbos, and I'm starting to count 6 days. He says, from the day, if you came on Tuesday, so you know now it's Tuesday night, after 3 days, 3 times 24, 72 hours, I start counting Shabbos, and this is your calendar, if you know. I found many years ago a Ralbag. Ralbag was Yedua B'chochmes Astronomia. A Ralbag in Sefer Yehoshua. There's a pasuk in Sefer Yehoshua. Take a look in Perek Chavov. The pasuk says, "Hein elek tzois drochov u'mashemetz dover nishbaboy v'ram gvuroisov mi'isboinen." This is the tzois. This is the edge of the Drochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the Ram Gvuroisov, and the powerful, the Ram, the thunder of the Gvuros Hashem, Mizboin, who could be Barech and who B'chlal Dagreich, the Midas, the Ram Gvuroisov. Says the Ralbag. Take a look at the Ralbag. You have it right there in reference number 11. בדרך שיעור זה החלק הנגלם נאורץ בצד הצפוני תמיד, ויסהבו בו לעבויס עד עמוקים שיכלה בו היועס האוירים החוישר בכל יום, וצלום שיהיה קצס כל יום ימי השונה אויר, וקצוסי חוישך. וזה ימושך עד מרחב סמך ווב מיילס, 66 degrees on the globe, וחופי דקים, ועד שום נמשך היישוב, לפי מה שסיפרו הקודמים, ואולם יהיה יום אחד בשונה אין בו לילו, ויום אחד אין לו יום, ומשם ואילך יסבס וזה השיעור מעט מעט, עד שיגיע על מה שתחת הקויטב הצפויני, ויהיה שם 6 חודשים בשונה אין בהם לילה והם ממויס החמו, ו6 בשונה אין בהם יום והם ממויס הגשמים. So you know about the Ralbag. Ralbag was already much earlier, to go for a couple 100 years before the Tiferes Yisrael. He says, what's Ram Gvurei Yisov? When you come to the North Pole, you have 24 hours which split. Sometimes the sun doesn't go down, sometimes the sun doesn't shine at all. You know, if you remember, last week we brought down the Mitzvahs David. Mitzvahs David brings a Chazal that the reason why Yeshua had Bichlal to be Maimid the Shemesh, we saw the Mabit has his own pshat, l'ram gvuroyle, to be meroimim the gvuras Hashem. But the Metzudas brings down a medrash that the reason why it was Hutzach Leisanes because the Milchama was on Friday, and Yeshua didn't want to be Michal Shabbos, therefore he froze. He says Shemesh be given there. Take a look. The Mekoil of this medrash is a Pirkei Ablozer. In Pirkei Ablozer, if you look at the Pirkei Ablozer, you have it in Perek Nun Beis. Let me quote Pirkei Ablozer Brayse. Hamoifes hashishim shel yom shenivru shamayim va'oretz hashemesh va'erer va'koichavim v'kol hamazolos yo'ilim lahoir al ha'oretz ve'eino me'arim ze im ze. Nobody ever came on the shvei kamachleikas. The sun was in the day, the moon was in the night, the stars were with the moon. Came on the given, all the mazolas had their routine recipe book. We know exactly when the sun goes up, when the sun goes down, when the moon goes up, when the moon goes down. Ad shebo Yeshua. Ve'osa milchamto shel Yisrael b'ger v'shab v'rob b'tzoros shel Yisrael shel echalus hashorot. He didn't want to be Chilul Shabbos. Ve'oi shero chartu megoyim kovshim b'mazolas lo v'al Yisrael. They also tried astronomical tricks, as we learned. They have their toilet, everything in the mazoles. Ma also Yeshua, it's a Brayse, Pirkei Ablozer. Poshat yodo lo ira shemesh v'lo yareach, v'iskir aleim es Hashem. This is how where he went. His patient yodo of keneged the shemesh and keneged the yareach, and he was maskir the shame. Ve'omad kol echo b'mkoimo shloishim v'shesh shoes ad motzei. It goes according to the man the Omar that was 36 hours ad motzei Shabbos. שנמה וידו עם השמש וירח עומד היוקם ואוהב ויעמד השם בחצי היום ולא עוסקו יום תומים ורואו כל מלכה ותומו שלא היו כמו יסם ביום שני וראו אילום ולא היו כיום אור לפון ואח לאיליק ושמוע השם רבי ישראל. Comes along the Radal, who is the Pirish. David Luria is a major Pirish, a guy in Oilom and the Pirkei Ablozer, and he says, take a look at the Radal in reference number 13. He writes like this: Mehach de ocho כיבד לישוק חם אף שיודע שכבר רוב חופדל לג'ובה של רב שבס לנך של שבס הכיום מריחתו של שבס יש סמך. He says from the fact that the state Pirkei Ablozer that it froze for 24 hours. It was a 36-hour day according to Yenem and Omar. So with the 36 hours the sun didn't go down. Yesh ktsas smach. There is a little something to lo'isa medimus hasmuchis latzirim. ואצלו משך כמה יום רצופים יום בלוי לילה לילה ביום שהכל נחשב אצלם כיום וכלילה אחד ולא יקראו אלו שלא יולים לזכול חבדל לשרס ליום אחד וכשכל לבוב פעם חבדל יקצ'ו השבס אין תשובה סרדבז. The Radal is meichiach from the fact that Yeshua was Emid Chamo in order to prolong state Pirkei Ablozer, he should be Mechal Shabbos. So behechrech, if you're going to say that when the sun doesn't go down, like in the North Pole, and there is a cycle of 24 hours. So, what did Yeshua fadin in the fact that he said Shemesh be given time? Saivi, from the time that they started 24 hours, Shabbos came in. According to the Chido, since they knew what the time was before, it doesn't help them any Atziras HaShemesh at all. If they knew when the Shas HaShki is, at that time, even though the sun is shining, Shabbos started. Zog the Radal from here is the Raya that Lemaise, you don't, as long as it's sunlight, we're still holding Friday. It could be a 24-hour Friday, a 36-hour Friday, a 48-hour Friday. It brings down the Yerushalmi Ksubis. Miudu, the Gemara says, Rebbe died, they made his Levai on Friday afternoon, and they were afraid they weren't able to get back home. Miudu Uvdo, this is the last reference, Mashkafta the Rebbe, that will be Yerushalmi Pek, you base the Ksubis. The Tolul on Yoim Achabo, Kajboch, who was Maimi the Chama, Achabo, the base of the Tolul, Dag, Vidlikus, and there, Vachakach Kora, Gever, Vishayim, Mitzikin, Shemachilis HaShabbos. You know, after they finished, they were hours long, they came home, the sun was still shining, and then they matzliach to light candles and to broil a piece of fish for Shabbos. And as soon as they finished the Suda, the sun shined Shabbos morning. So they had Mitzikin. They were bothered with the fact that perhaps they were Michal Shabbos. Yotza Baskoil ve'omro, he said, don't worry about it, you weren't Michal Shabbos. Mashma, the Noklo L'Mcham, Vakivish Yodesh Yom Chavdal Shosh Yom Vov, Yishyochish L'Chil Shabbos. U'L'chora Mizeh Muchach, the Loike HaMaise, the Shemesh, be given doim, El Nechshav Le'em HaShabbos, V'mola Baskoil. The Baskoil came and said, don't worry about it, I took care of it, whoever's Mishtatev, Mizum L'Chai Yom Habo, don't worry about it. But also them, the fact that they knew that 24 hours passed, even though the sun was shining, unlike the story of Shemesh Begivain Doim. V'yesh lechalek, he says, ben hochad Yeshua shenok duchama b'kol oilam la'ashkafta the Rebbe shelinok dachama rak Hashem eile ineim shelo iski ki'ilu yoyim aval lekol oilam moye kvar alayla v'lchach nitztaru v'choshu l'chil Shabbos u'me'ato le'ele shesmuchim l'tzir uloi efshel l'damoisam l'hod ashkafta the Rebbe. He says, he says that here maybe it's chiluk because the Yeshua was nok duchama l'kol oilam, and here only these people had the sunlight, like really the Ralbag and the Abarbanel would like to be mefor.